The popular image of ninja and samurai as eternal enemies has little basis in historical reality. The common portrayal depicts honorable warriors locked in constant conflict with shadowy operatives unbound by any code. This framing, while dramatically convenient, obscures a more complex relationship. Historically, shinobi, those individuals skilled in covert operations, were often employed by samurai lords, functioning within the same military structures and sharing much of the same social world. The distinction lies not in inherent opposition, but in differing roles. Samurai engaged in formal warfare, while shinobi specialized in intelligence gathering, infiltration, and sabotage to achieve strategic goals. The Bansen Shukai, a comprehensive ninjutsu manual from 1676, exemplifies this dynamic. It is addressed throughout to the practitioner operating in service of a lord. Similarly, the Shoninki, written in 1681, frames shinobi practice within a context of loyalty and service. These texts assume integration within the feudal system, not separation from it. For instance, following the destruction of Iga province by Oda Nobunaga in 1581, Tokugawa Ieyasu recruited many displaced shinobi, who subsequently provided security for Edo Castle during the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate. These operatives were retainers within a samurai-led hierarchy, performing specialized functions, not rogue agents acting against samurai interests. A similar arrangement existed between the Rokkaku clan and the Kokugan shinobi networks, where mutual military cooperation was exchanged for autonomy in governance. This integration extended beyond mere employment. It shaped the very nature of shinobi practice itself. The Bansen Shukai, for example, includes detailed discussions on maintaining secrecy, not only from external enemies, but also within one's own lord's court, reflecting a need to navigate complex political landscapes and avoid accusations of disloyalty. Similarly, the Shoninki emphasizes the importance of discretion in interactions with fellow retainers, highlighting that shinobi operated as specialists who required careful management to prevent suspicion or interference. The Koyo Gunkan details Takeda Shingen's use of itinerant shrine attendants, the Aruki Miko, to gather intelligence. Their movements and activities were carefully controlled to avoid detection, while maximizing information-gathering capabilities. These examples illustrate that the shinobi's role was not simply to execute tasks, but also to manage perceptions within a hierarchical structure, demonstrating an intricate interplay between covert action and overt social dynamics. The Sengoku period was defined by fractured authority. Powerful feudal lords, daimyo, constantly vied for control of territory, resources, and influence. This decentralized landscape fostered a unique environment where traditional military strength wasn't always decisive. While samurai formed the core of these armies, their reliance on open combat left them vulnerable to intelligence gathering and covert operations. It was within this context that Iga and Koka provinces developed networks of individuals who would become known as shinobi, but whose roles were far more nuanced than popular imagination suggests. These weren't rogue agents operating outside the feudal system. Rather, they were specialists employed by various lords to gain an advantage in a world defined by shifting alliances and constant conflict. The Rokkaku clan's relationship with the Kokugan shinobi networks exemplifies this dynamic. Rather than direct control, the arrangement involved a mutual alliance where Koka maintained internal autonomy in exchange for military support when needed. Leading families from Koka served as garrison troops at Kanenji Castle, demonstrating an integration within the Rokkaku's military structure. Similarly, Takeda Shingen organized specialist intelligence groups drawn not only from Iga and Koka, but also from his own domain of Kai province. The Koyo Gunkan details 3 categories of operative: super for reconnaissance and political manipulation, Mitsumono, who gathered military intelligence disguised as ascetics or merchants, and Aruki Miko, itinerant shrine attendants, who collected information through divination practice. These operatives were not inherently opposed to samurai values, but rather employed different methods to achieve strategic goals within the existing feudal hierarchy. The social origins of these shinobi varied, including lower-ranking samurai and individuals from non-samurai backgrounds, defined by specialized capabilities rather than hereditary status. The Takeda case highlights a broader point. Major samurai commanders did not simply hire shinobi from established Iga and Koka networks. They organized their own covert capabilities, shaped by their specific strategic needs. Specialist intelligence work was a standard military resource, not something alien to the samurai world. The social origins of historical shinobi are more varied than popular culture suggests, and the boundary between shinobi and samurai was less fixed than the popular opposition implies. Some shinobi came from lower-ranking samurai or jisamurai families in the Iga and Koka regions. Others came from non-samurai backgrounds, farmers, craftsmen, or members of itinerant communities who possessed skills relevant to intelligence and infiltration work. The defining characteristic of a shinobi was functional, specialized capability in covert operations. It was not a fixed hereditary status in the way that samurai status was formalized during the Edo period. During the Sengoku period, when most shinobi activity is historically documented, social boundaries were considerably more fluid than they became under Tokugawa governance. The rigid separation of samurai and commoner classes that characterizes the later Edo period was still in the process of being established. The transition from the Sengoku period to the Edo period brought significant changes for those who operated in secrecy. While shinobi had long existed, their roles and status shifted considerably under Tokugawa rule. The word ninja, while appearing later than shinobi, began to be applied retrospectively to describe these covert operatives. Historically, shinobi were often described as spies and infiltrators. Evidence suggests they were not primarily assassins. During the Sengoku period, individuals from Iga province and the adjacent Koka district jisamurai families, who had formed leagues for self-defense, became known for selling their military services, including espionage. Following the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate in the 17th century, these shinobi gradually faded into obscurity as a distinct force. The term shinobi itself appears in written records dating back to the late 8th century, signifying to steal away, to hide. By the 15th century, specialized training for espionage emerged, and shinobi began to be clearly identified as agents operating outside conventional structures. Accounts from this era often drew upon Chinese military strategy, such as Sun Tzu's The Art of War. The Iga and Koka clans were particularly known for their shinobi. These families formed confederacies that provided mercenaries and spies. These professional ninjas were hired by daimyos between 1485 and 1581, often sought after for siege warfare tactics. A constitutional document formalized an alliance between the Iga and Koka confederations around 1560. Later, in 1600, ninja from Koga infiltrated a castle defended by the Eastern Army, planting a flag as part of a larger military operation. The Tokugawa shogunate formalized these arrangements, incorporating shinobi into a state-sanctioned spy network. The Okitagaki document, dating to 1645, outlines regulations governing the Iga and Koka clans, restricting their movements and activities while simultaneously mandating service for the shogunate. This document stipulated that clan members were to register with local authorities and report any suspicious activity. While ostensibly intended to control these groups, it also served to harness their skills for state purposes. The Okitagaki further limited the number of individuals who could leave the provinces annually, effectively creating a pool of trained operatives available for deployment by the shogunate. These shinobi were assigned tasks ranging from gathering intelligence on potential rivals within Japan to monitoring foreign trade and preventing the spread of Christianity. Accounts suggest that some families were even tasked with infiltrating Buddhist temples suspected of harboring dissenting voices. The Tokugawa regime maintained this system until the Meiji Restoration in 1868, when the shogunate was dissolved and feudal domains abolished. The Tokugawa shogunate's efforts to control shinobi families extended beyond registration and travel restrictions. A rare glimpse into practical field techniques emerges from the Kanrin Seiyo, a manuscript dating to 1748. This work, part of the larger Bansen Shukai, offers insights into the skills these operatives were expected to possess, moving beyond philosophical discussions or mythical narratives. The Kanrin Seiyo details 48 points related to shinobi fighting techniques, revealing a focus on practical application. Among the documented methods are instructions for crafting makibishi, caltrops made from bamboo designed to impede pursuers. The manuscript also provides guidance on creating footwear intended to minimize noise during movement, crucial for infiltration and reconnaissance. Further entries address combat scenarios involving multiple opponents, precautions when utilizing swords at night, and techniques for discerning faint sounds, a vital skill for gathering intelligence undetected. One entry details a method called kuji-kiri, described as preventing guard dogs from barking, though the specifics are not elaborated upon within this evidence. These instructions suggest a pragmatic approach to shinobi operations, prioritizing stealth, evasion, and tactical advantage in diverse environments. Accounts of ninja involvement in military campaigns appear in diaries such as the Amakusa Gunki, which details Koga ninja participating directly in reconnaissance missions during the Shimabara Rebellion. 1637-1638, including infiltrating Hara Castle to gather intelligence on its defenses and provisions. This account specifies that some operatives were apparently descended from those involved in earlier actions against the Imagawa clan, suggesting a continuity of skills and lineages within ninja families. The Yukai diary corroborates this narrative, describing missions undertaken by Koga ninjas to assess castle fortifications, obtain passwords, and even capture enemy banners, actions carrying significant risk. One entry notes that 2 individuals involved in one such reconnaissance mission sustained serious wounds. These diaries record ninja involvement in capturing Baileys within Hara Castle itself. These accounts also detail how ninja disrupted rebel communications by intercepting messages and spreading disinformation, complicating the rebels' ability to coordinate defenses. Operatives successfully replaced a vital order with a false directive, delaying reinforcements. Ninja were tasked with identifying and neutralizing key messengers, effectively isolating the rebels from external support networks. These actions demonstrate an understanding of information warfare as integral to military strategy. Furthermore, the diaries record instances where ninja utilized specialized tools for covert communication, including signal fires and coded messages relayed through sympathetic villagers, techniques designed to maintain contact while avoiding detection. The Amakusa Gunki mentions one such instance where lantern signals alerted shogunate troops to hidden rebel caches within the countryside. The accounts of ninja activity during the Shimabara Rebellion, 1637 to 1638, detail operatives surveying fortification plans, measuring moat depths, and stealing enemy passwords. These actions helped capture outer baileys within Hara Castle itself. Following this conflict, the age of the field operative was over. While popular imagination often depicts them as supernatural assassins, historical ninja were intelligence operatives. Japanese academic research, centered at Mie University's International Ninja Research Center, has established that shinobi verifiably existed from the 14th century as spies, saboteurs, and mercenary scouts. A Jesuit dictionary published in Nagasaki in 1603 defines shinobi precisely as a spy for intelligence, not a supernatural assassin. The word ninja itself is a modern pronunciation that became standardized only in the mid-20th century. This distinction highlights a critical shift. The transformation of shinobi from mundane spies into cultural icons occurred over centuries. Initially, the iconic black ninja costume derived directly from the convention of Kuroko, kabuki stagehands dressed in black to be invisible to audiences. Dark navy blue was preferred for night operations. Black creates unnatural silhouettes in moonlight. This theatrical association began as early as 1801. Later, in the late 1950s and 1960s, writers like Yamada Futaro gave ninja unique pseudo-biological superpowers, shaping the modern image of the operative. Simultaneously, film series established virtually every visual element of pop culture: black hoods, shuriken, clan wars, and female operatives, the kunoichi. The emergence of incentives for shinobi is less documented than their operational roles, but hints exist within historical records that suggest a formalized system may have existed. The Bansen Shukai, one of the 3 surviving ninjutsu manuals, emphasizes ethics above all fighting technique. While no direct evidence explicitly outlines financial rewards or social elevation, it's plausible that successful operatives could gain status. A samurai military commander nicknamed Demon Hanzo led eager shinobi in night harassment at Mikitagahara, 1573, and his name was given to the Hanzomon Gate at Edo Castle, a testament to a potential path for recognition, though not necessarily through ninja activities alone. The Bansen Shukai's emphasis on ethics suggests a formalized system of rewards, though concrete examples remain elusive within extant documentation. The samurai military commander Hattori Hanzo's association with eager shinobi at Mikitagahara and his subsequent naming of a gate in Edo Castle indicates one potential avenue for recognition, though. It is important to note that this honor stemmed from his broader military service rather than solely from ninja activities. Similarly, Momochi Sandayu's use of multiple identities demonstrates an understanding of operational security protocols which might have included incentives beyond monetary compensation. Maintaining separate households and personas would require significant resources and support structures. The precise nature of these supports is not detailed in surviving records, but suggests a level of institutional backing for successful operatives. The popular image of a ninja, a figure clad entirely in black, scaling walls with supernatural agility and wielding an arsenal of exotic weapons, is largely a product of later invention. Historical research, particularly centered at Mi University's International Ninja Research Center, has established that individuals who performed functions we might associate with ninja did exist from the 14th century onward. These shinobi were primarily intelligence operatives, spies, saboteurs, and mercenary scouts. Their skills focused on disguise, psychological manipulation, pharmacology, and patient information gathering, abilities more akin to those of modern intelligence agents than a superhuman assassin. The word shinobi initially signified simply stealing away, appearing as early as the 8th century. By the 14th century Nanbokucho period, shinobi began to emerge as a distinct occupational role, evolving from rogue militias that gained influence during the collapse of the Kamakura shogunate. The Sengoku period became their most active era. 2 regions, Iga Province and Koka District, developed expertise in these clandestine operations. In Iga, roughly 300 to 500 small estates supported a confederation of jisamurai, peasant warriors, who formed the Iga Sokoku Ikki, a self-governing military republic with its own written constitution. A Jesuit dictionary published in Nagasaki in 1603 defines shinobi precisely as a spy for intelligence, not an assassin. The word ninja, the more familiar pronunciation today, didn't become standardized until the mid-20th century. The figure of Hattori Hanzo complicates this picture. Research by Tamura Risa demonstrated that the association of Hanzo with ninjutsu is a 20th century development. The first linkage came from Fujita Seiko in 1938 lectures, and the first novel to portray him as an Eiga ninja, appeared in 1958. Historically, Hattori Masanari, the second individual to bear the hereditary name Hanzo, was a samurai military commander nicknamed Oni no Hanzo or Demon Hanzo, for his skill with a spear, not for any covert activities. He did lead 30 eager shinobi in a night harassment of Takeda Shingen's forces at Mikatagahara in 1573, and later lent his name to the Hanzomon Gate at Edo Castle, a designation that persists today on the Tokyo Metro map. While Masanari's actions involved shinobi, they were part of broader military operations rather than solely ninja activities. The association of Hattori Hanzo with ninjutsu also obscures the broader context of Iga's relationship with other domains. While Masanari led shinobi, his actions were often coordinated with larger military campaigns undertaken by Tokugawa Ieyasu, demonstrating a complex interdependence rather than an autonomous ninja network operating outside conventional power structures. Correspondence between Ieyasu and Masanari reveals that Hanzo was expected to report on the movements of enemy forces and provide logistical support, roles consistent with those of a military commander rather than a clandestine operative. Furthermore, the Tokugawa shogunate actively sought to control and integrate shinobi into its own service after 1603, diminishing their independence and further blurring the lines between conventional warfare and covert operations. The popular image of a ninja, a figure clad entirely in black, scaling walls and performing superhuman feats, stands in stark contrast to what historical sources reveal about their training. The primary focus wasn't physical supremacy, but mission reliability, the consistent ability to gather intelligence, infiltrate undetected, and return safely. This framing shaped every aspect of shinobi development, making it professional preparation for covert operations rather than athletic conditioning with a combat application. Physical training did occur, but always with an operational purpose. Endurance was paramount. Shinobi needed to move long distances at night through difficult terrain while carrying equipment. Silent movement was also critical, developed not as an innate ability, but as a technical skill requiring careful foot placement, weight distribution, and even clothing selection. Climbing walls, crossing water obstacles, and navigating architectural spaces were practiced with tools like hand claws and foot claws. Equally important was the ability to alter one's appearance, height, gait, posture, to maintain a false identity. However, what's notably absent from these primary sources are the extreme physical feats common in popular culture: wall running or superhuman jumps. These are theatrical elaborations rather than historical training methods. Perhaps even more crucial was psychological discipline, consistently underrepresented but considered foundational by both the Bansen Shukai and Shoninki. Maintaining a false identity required suppressing fear and discomfort, reading human psychology, understanding motivations and exploiting assumptions was an essential area of study. Training also involved independent decision-making in enemy territory, knowing when to proceed or abort a mission. Exposure to difficult conditions like darkness and confinement served as stress inoculation, preparing them for the realities of their work. Knowledge of poisons and medicines was specialist knowledge requiring study rather than physical training. Similarly, environmental knowledge, terrain, weather patterns, seasonal variations, and astronomical navigation demanded diligent observation and record-keeping. The Bansen Shukai includes sections on meteorology and geography as operational tools, recognizing that knowing when fog would form or a river would be fordable was critical intelligence. Social and cultural understanding also fell under this category. A shinobi posing as a local merchant needed to convincingly mimic the speech patterns, dress, and customs of that trade. The three surviving manuals, the Bansen Shukai, Shoninki, and Ninpiden, all emphasize these intellectual aspects alongside physical and psychological preparation. Recent research at Mi University's International Ninja Research Center has uncovered further documentation supporting this emphasis. including a ninjutsu document discovered in the storehouse of Kuzugi Shrine in Koka, which details methods for assessing local dialects to maintain cover identities. These skills were transmitted within family lineages, creating both advantages and vulnerabilities. While tightly controlled knowledge ensured operational security, it also risked loss if a lineage was disrupted. The popular image of a shinobi, a black-clad figure, scaling walls and flinging projectiles, often obscures the practical realities of their craft. While assassination was occasionally part of their duties, it represented only one facet of a skill set centered on information gathering and subtle disruption. To effectively carry out these tasks, Shinobi relied on a range of specialized tools and techniques designed to prioritize concealment and efficiency above all else. Among these implements were bamboo caltrops, small spiked devices scattered to impede pursuers or alert the user to approaching footsteps. Silk soles were affixed to footwear to muffle movement across wooden floors and rooftops. These seemingly minor details underscored a commitment to minimizing noise, a critical element in avoiding detection. Distractions also played a vital role. Shuriken, often depicted as throwing stars, were frequently employed not for lethal strikes, but to draw attention away from the shinobi's true objective. Kunai, typically portrayed as daggers used in close combat, served more commonly as climbing aids or diversionary tools. The selection of weaponry was dictated by practicality and disguise. A wakizashi, a shorter sword than the katana, was preferred over a full-sized blade because it could be more easily concealed. The absence of bulky equipment like bows and quivers further facilitated stealthy movement and infiltration. Specialized lanterns and firecrackers provided illumination or created diversions, while woven rafts and snowshoes aided in traversing water obstacles or snowy terrain. Ultimately, shinobi were expected to adapt and utilize whatever resources the environment offered, demonstrating ingenuity alongside specialized training. Beyond weaponry and specialized attire, a shinobi's toolkit often included items designed to exploit the environment or manipulate perception. Certain plants, such as those producing strong odors or irritants, were employed to mask scent trails or create distractions. Similarly, knowledge of local flora and fauna proved invaluable. Recognizing edible plants could sustain missions lasting days or weeks, while understanding animal behavior allowed for predicting movement patterns or creating diversions. The ability to mimic bird calls or other natural sounds served a similar purpose. Some accounts mention the use of specially prepared powders, though their exact composition remains unclear, intended to obscure footprints or create temporary visual obstructions. These substances were not intended as offensive weapons, but rather as tools to control information and manipulate the operational landscape. A shinobi's success depended on more than just physical prowess. It hinged on a comprehensive understanding of the natural world and an ability to leverage its intricacies for concealment and advantage. The popular image of a ninja, a figure clad entirely in black, scaling walls and performing impossible feats, is largely a fabrication. The reality was far more nuanced, reliant on careful observation and manipulation of the environment. While darkness certainly offered cover, complete blackness proved problematic. It created a stark silhouette easily visible against even faintly lit backgrounds. Instead, shinobi favored darker shades like navy blue or dark gray, colors that blended better with shadows and natural terrain. These weren't flamboyant uniforms, but practical garments designed to disappear within rural landscapes. The ability to move unseen depended heavily on understanding the environment. A shinobi might utilize dense foliage for concealment, choosing routes along ravines or through thickets to avoid detection. Knowledge of local topography was crucial, Knowing where a patrol would likely be positioned or identifying natural choke points suitable for ambushes could mean the difference between success and failure. The terrain itself became an ally, offering cover and avenues for escape. A shinobi might use the darkness of a forest to mask their movements, or exploit uneven ground to break up their silhouette. Even seemingly minor details, the direction of the wind carrying scents, the sound of rustling leaves indicating movement, were vital pieces of information. The most effective shinobi were those who could read these signs and adapt accordingly, using the landscape itself as a tool for concealment and misdirection. The ability to convincingly portray a local resident extended beyond mere clothing. It demanded an understanding of regional dialects and customs. A shinobi infiltrating a village needed to speak with the correct accent, use appropriate honorifics, and demonstrate familiarity with local traditions. This involved painstaking observation and mimicry, often requiring weeks or even months of preparation before a mission. For example, a shinobi assigned to infiltrate a farming community would study agricultural practices, learn the names of local crops and livestock, and familiarize themselves with seasonal festivals and rituals. They might even adopt a plausible occupation, such as that of a traveling merchant or artisan, allowing them to move freely within the target area while gathering intelligence. The Shoninki emphasizes this aspect of disguise, noting that a shinobi's success depended not only on their ability to avoid detection, but also on their capacity to blend seamlessly into the local population. Furthermore, knowledge of regional politics and social hierarchies was essential for navigating complex relationships and avoiding suspicion. A shinobi might need to understand which families held sway in a particular village, or who were likely to be sympathetic to their cause. The Bansen Shukai details how these networks could be exploited to gain access to information or influence local opinion. Even seemingly insignificant details, such as the way people greeted each other or the types of food they consumed, could betray an imposter and compromise a mission. The terms ninja and samurai, as popularly understood today, represent a simplification of historical roles. The debate between them isn't a clash of opposing factions, but rather highlights contrasting tactical philosophies. Samurai were elite warriors bound by formal combat etiquette, while shinobi operated as covert specialists. Often themselves samurai, employing stealth, espionage, and asymmetric warfare to achieve strategic military goals. This distinction is evident in the primary sources that describe their practices, notably the Kanrin Seiyo, the Okitagaki, and the Shoninki. These texts avoid the term ninja, instead utilizing more practical terminology to delineate specific skills and responsibilities. The Bansen Shukai, 1676, a comprehensive ninjutsu manual, consistently addresses the shinobi practitioner operating in service of a lord. It assumes a patron-client relationship as its baseline context. Shinobi do not function autonomously, but rather under military or political superiors. Similarly, the Shoninki, 1681, frames shinobi practice within the framework of service and loyalty, emphasizing ethical dimensions that mirror samurai values while articulating them in the context of covert operations. Neither text portrays shinobi as independent agents or enemies of the samurai class. Both assume integration within the feudal structure. The training described within these sources prioritized mission reliability above all else. A shinobi's effectiveness depended on their ability to gather accurate intelligence, infiltrate successfully, and return undetected. Physical conditioning was a component, focused on endurance and silent movement rather than displays of athleticism. Psychological discipline held paramount importance. Shinobi were trained in emotional control under pressure, reading human psychology, and making decisions with limited information, skills essential for maintaining cover identities and navigating hostile environments. The Bansen Shukai and Shoninki, alongside other surviving materials, reveal that knowledge acquisition formed a significant component of Shinobi training. This extended beyond tactical information to encompass detailed understanding of social customs, dialects, and local geography relevant to potential operational environments. A shinobi's ability to convincingly portray an assumed identity depended on this breadth of knowledge. Inconsistencies in speech or behavior could immediately compromise their cover. The manuals emphasize the importance of studying regional variations in language. A merchant from one province would speak differently than one from another, and understanding subtle social cues that might betray an outsider. Furthermore, practical instruction included methods for gathering intelligence through observation and interrogation, emphasizing techniques to elicit information without raising suspicion. This involved mastering conversational tactics designed to subtly guide interactions toward desired outcomes. The Bansen Shukai includes detailed discussions on the art of deception, not merely in terms of outright lies, but also in manipulating perceptions and exploiting biases to extract valuable intelligence. These practices underscored a core principle. Effective covert action relied as much, if not more, on intellectual acuity and social awareness than on physical prowess. The transmission of this knowledge occurred primarily within established shinobi lineages, reinforcing the importance of secrecy and operational security. The popular image of a ninja, clad entirely in black, capable of impossible feats, is largely a product of later invention. Historical shinobi were intelligence operatives. Their skills focused on gathering information and disrupting enemy plans rather than engaging in direct combat. Their existence is verifiable from the 14th century as spies, saboteurs, and mercenary scouts, a reality established through research centered at Mie University's International Ninja Research Center. One text frequently associated with ninjutsu instruction is the Ninpiden, Secret Traditions of the Ninja. Attributed to the Hattori family, it presents itself as a practical guide covering lockpicking, infiltration methods, and equipment for field operations. However, recent scholarship raises serious questions about its authenticity. Research by Tamura Raisa demonstrated that the association of the name Hattori Hanzo with ninjutsu did not emerge until the 20th century. The first linkage came from Fujita Seiko in 1938 lectures. The first novel to call him an Eiga ninja appeared in 1958. This suggests a deliberate effort to connect a historical figure. Hattori Masanari, a samurai military commander known as Demon Hanzo for his spear prowess, with a fabricated legacy of covert operations. The Ninpiden's emphasis on seemingly fantastical tools and techniques further undermines its credibility as an authentic historical document. These inventions contribute to the mythologization of the ninja archetype, distancing it from the realities of intelligence work practiced by operatives like Momoshi Sandayu, who maintained 3 separate identities for operational security, a practice mirroring modern intelligence protocols. The Ninpiden's contents appear designed not to instruct, but to construct a romanticized and unrealistic image of shinobi. The Ninpiden's contents appear designed not to instruct, but to construct a romanticized and unrealistic image of shinobi. Its purported techniques, such as scaling sheer cliffs with specialized climbing gear or creating illusions through elaborate makeup, lack corroborating evidence in other contemporary sources. While the manuals collectively emphasize disguise and infiltration, the Ninpiden prioritizes fantastical equipment that would have been impractical for covert operations. The museum's replica tools demonstrate the physical implausibility of many described devices. A grappling hook designed to launch over castle walls, for example, would be easily detectable and likely fail under operational stress. Furthermore, the text's attribution to the Hattori family is itself problematic. While Masanari held the hereditary name Hanzo, there's no contemporary documentation linking him or his retainers to any of the practices described in the Ninpiden. The manual's late appearance, nearly 2 centuries after Masanari's death, suggests a deliberate effort to fabricate a lineage and enhance the perceived mystique of the ninja. This construction aligns with broader trends in Edo period entertainment, where sensationalized accounts of warrior exploits were popular among urban audiences. The popular image of ninja training often focuses on extreme physical feats, running up walls, catching arrows mid-air. However, primary sources reveal a considerably different approach, one centered around mission reliability rather than athletic prowess. The Bansen Shukai, compiled in 1676, emphasizes the consistent ability to gather intelligence, infiltrate enemy territory, and return undetected as the core objective of shinobi training. A physically imposing individual who lacked psychological stability or technical skill was deemed useless. This focus shaped the nature of physical conditioning. While endurance was valued, it wasn't about brute strength, but sustained movement under difficult conditions, long-distance travel at night through challenging terrain while carrying equipment. Silent movement also received significant attention, not as an innate ability, but a learnable skill developed through deliberate practice. The Bansen Shukai details techniques such as careful foot placement and weight distribution to minimize sound. Similarly, climbing walls and crossing water obstacles were trained skills, often utilizing tools like hand and foot claws. Beyond physical conditioning, training included altering one's appearance, gait, posture to maintain a false identity. A practical example of this attention to detail involved footwear. To further enhance silent movement, the Bansen Shukai describes gluing soft silk to the soles of sandals. This simple modification significantly reduced noise during footfalls, crucial for infiltration and reconnaissance. Another innovation focused on creating obstacles for pursuers, heat-treating bamboo to harden it before shaping into caltrops, small spiked devices scattered to impede movement. These were not tools of direct combat, but rather defensive measures designed to slow or injure anyone following a shinobi's trail. These caltrops, while simple in concept, required careful construction to be effective. The Bansen Shukai notes that poorly made caltrops would break or bend upon impact, rendering them useless. Therefore, the selection of materials and the precision of their creation were vital aspects of this defensive technique. Beyond simply hardening the bamboo through heat, shinobi also experimented with different shapes and spike angles to maximize their ability to snag clothing or limbs. The manual suggests that a slight curve on one point could increase entanglement potential. Furthermore, the Bansen Shukai details dispersing these obstacles not haphazardly but strategically, anticipating likely pursuit routes and placing them where they would inflict maximum disruption without being easily visible. This demonstrated an understanding of both mechanics and tactical thinking. It wasn't enough to simply create a device that could impede movement. It had to be deployed effectively within the operational environment. The image of a ninja, a figure clad entirely in black, moving silently through the night, is deeply ingrained in popular culture. However, this is largely a product of later theatrical conventions and fictional narratives, rather than an accurate depiction of historical shinobi. The individuals who performed intelligence operations in feudal Japan did not routinely wear all-black attire. Instead, their clothing was dictated by the need to blend into their surroundings, often dark navy blue for nighttime missions, a color that would have been less conspicuous under moonlight than black. This iconic visual association with darkness originates from kuroko, the stagehands in Japanese kabuki and bunraku theater. These individuals were dressed entirely in black to remain virtually invisible during performances, facilitating quick scene changes and prop manipulation without drawing audience attention. This theatrical convention of anonymity profoundly influenced how shinobi would later be portrayed. The earliest pictorial representation of a ninja wearing what we now recognize as the ninja costume, a dark ensemble, appears in an 1801 depiction, long after kabuki had established itself as a popular form of entertainment. The transformation of shinobi from intelligence operatives into figures possessing supernatural abilities and distinctive attire accelerated significantly during the late 1950s and early 1960s. Writer Yamada Futaro published a series of 24 ninja novels beginning in 1958, imbuing each character with unique, pseudo-biological powers, a conceptual foundation for many subsequent ninja narratives. Simultaneously, the Shinobi no Mono film series debuted in 1962, solidifying nearly every visual element associated with pop culture's perception of a ninja: black hoods, shuriken throwing, and clan warfare. These elements built upon existing theatrical tropes to create a new archetype, a figure far removed from the historical reality of shinobi operations. The association of shuriken with ninja also solidified during this period of theatrical reimagining, appearing increasingly frequently in kabuki performances and other forms of popular entertainment. While edged weapons certainly comprised part of a shinobi's toolkit, standard for any warrior class, their prominence as signature implements is a later fabrication. Similarly, the concept of kunoichi, or female ninja, largely lacks historical support. While women undoubtedly participated in espionage activities, their roles were typically limited to gathering information through social interaction and infiltration, rather than engaging in combat. Yamada and Yoshimaru's research further indicates that portrayals of kunoichi as skilled martial artists are a product of 20th century fiction, drawing upon existing tropes of female spies and assassins found in earlier literary works, but lacking any verifiable basis in historical records. The emphasis on these fictionalized elements served to heighten the dramatic appeal of ninja narratives, contributing to their widespread popularity while simultaneously obscuring the reality of shinobi operations. The popular image of a ninja, a figure clad entirely in black, wielding shuriken and performing superhuman feats, is largely a product of later fiction. Historical research, particularly from institutions like Mi University's International Ninja Research Center, has established that shinobi did exist from the 14th century as intelligence operatives, spies, saboteurs, and mercenary scouts. Their skills centered on disguise, psychology, pharmacology, and patient information gathering, more akin to modern intelligence agents than fantastical assassins. A key element in this mythologization is the figure of Hattori Hanzo. Research by Tamura Risa demonstrates that he was not regarded as a ninja until the 20th century. The first linkage of Hanzo to ninjutsu came from Fujita Seiko in 1938 lectures. The first novel to call him an eager ninja appeared in Shiba Ryotaro's Castle of Owls in 1958. The historical Hattori Masanari, who held the hereditary name Hanzo, was a samurai military commander known as Oni no Hanzo, or Demon Hanzo, for his spear prowess, not a shadow operative. He did lead 30 eager shinobi in night harassment of Takeda Shingen's forces at Mikatagahara in 1573, and lent his name to the Hanzoman Gate at Edo Castle, which endures today on the Tokyo Metro map. Similarly, weapons frequently associated with ninja, shuriken, and the ninjato lack historical basis. Yamada states plainly that he has not found any record of ninja using shuriken in historical handbooks. Their association comes entirely from Edo period theater. The ninjato, a straight sword, is absent from physical evidence until the 1900s and is almost certainly a modern invention. Historical shinobi utilized standard weapons, with ninjutsu manuals emphasizing tools for fire starting, climbing, and lock-picking over bladed weaponry. The mythologization continued through the Meiji Restoration and beyond. The government's efforts to modernize Japan included suppressing traditions associated with the feudal era, but ironically, this created a nostalgic interest in them. Yamada notes that during the Taisho period, 1912 to 1926, ninjutsu began appearing in physical education programs as a form of martial arts training, a far cry from its original function as intelligence gathering. These demonstrations often incorporated elements of kabuki theater and popular fiction, further solidifying the image of the ninja as a fantastical warrior. The association with Shugendo practices also intensified during this time, linking Shinobi to esoteric mountain asceticism and reinforcing beliefs in supernatural abilities. While these practices were sometimes present in the lives of Shinobi, particularly those operating in mountainous regions, they represented an embellishment rather than a core component of their skill set. Even so, some practitioners claimed direct lineage from historical ninja clans, further contributing to the proliferation of inaccurate narratives about their capabilities. The image of a ninja, a black-clad warrior wielding shuriken and disappearing into shadows, is largely a product of later invention. Historical ninja were intelligence operatives, spies, saboteurs, and mercenary scouts, who verifiably existed from the 14th century. Their skill sets centered on disguise, psychology, pharmacology, and patient information gathering. They functioned more like modern intelligence agents than fantastical assassins. The word shinobi, but with a generic meaning of stealing away. A Jesuit dictionary published in Nagasaki in 1603 defines shinobi precisely as a spy for intelligence, not an assassin. The term ninja itself is a modern pronunciation that became standardized only in the mid-20th century. 3 surviving ninjutsu manuals offer insight into their practices: the Bansen Shukai, which synthesizes traditions from Iga and Koka; the Shoninki, focusing on psychological techniques like face reading; and the Nimpiden, emphasizing practical skills such as lockpicking and infiltration methods. All 3 emphasize intelligence gathering over combat. The Bansen Shukai's central ethical teaching that ninjutsu must never be used for selfish purposes directly contradicts the mercenary assassin image often associated with them. A recent discovery of a manuscript of the Kanren-zyo, a source text that summarizes the Bansen Shukai, at Kazuraki Shrine in Koka City, further illuminates this focus on ethics and information gathering. The discovery of the Kanren-zyo manuscript at Kazuraki Shrine provides a crucial point of comparison with later Edo period manuals. While these earlier texts, including the Bansen Shukai and its summarized form, consistently emphasize ethical conduct and information gathering as primary objectives, with combat relegated to a secondary role, Edo-era publications increasingly portray shinobi in terms more aligned with popular modern conceptions. The Kanren-zyo's focus on maintaining secrecy regarding methods and clientele directly mirrors operational security protocols employed by figures like Momochi Sandayu, suggesting a deliberate effort to control the dissemination of knowledge even within ninjutsu lineages. This contrasts sharply with later Edo period manuals, which often include detailed descriptions of techniques intended for wider consumption, potentially diluting their effectiveness as tools for covert operations. The manuscript's emphasis on maintaining a network of informants and cultivating relationships within target communities highlights the importance of social intelligence, a skill consistently underscored in other early ninjutsu sources but less prominent in later accounts that prioritize physical skills. Furthermore, the Kazuraki Shrine manuscript contains detailed instructions regarding the construction of disguises tailored to specific social classes, demonstrating an understanding of how appearance could be leveraged for infiltration and information gathering, a level of detail often absent from Edo-era portrayals which tend toward more generalized descriptions of disguise techniques. The term ninja, as it's commonly understood today, a figure cloaked in shadows, wielding fantastical weaponry and performing superhuman feats, is a product of later romanticization. Historically, what we now call ninja were more accurately described as spies and infiltrators, operating within the complex political landscape of pre-modern Japan. Early instances of espionage date back to the 6th century, when Prince Shotoku employed a spy named Otomono Sahito, though historical evidence of his existence is scarce. The word ninja itself wasn't commonly used. Instead, regional terms like shinobi, monomi, rappa, or igamono were more prevalent. The term shinobi appears in written records as far back as the late 8th century. It derives from kanji meaning to steal away and to hide. By the Sengoku period, a time of widespread unrest and conflict, individuals began to be specifically trained for covert operations. They weren't elite warriors in the traditional samurai sense. Their value lay not in open combat, but in gathering intelligence, sabotage, and disruption. Often drawn from lower social classes, they operated outside established codes of honor, trading services for payment without seeking glory or recognition. The Iga and Koka clans, located in specific regions of Japan, became particularly known for producing these shinobi. Villages within these areas developed a reputation for training individuals skilled in stealth and subterfuge. From around the 15th century, daimyos, feudal lords, hired ninja from these regions to perform tasks including reconnaissance and night attacks on castles. These professional ninjas were organized into guilds with ranks, jonin representing the group and hiring mercenaries, chunin acting as assistants, and genin carrying out missions in the field. The chronicle Go Kagami Furoku noted that people from Iga became known for their military activities, while a supplement to Nochi Kagami credited ninja with destroying castles by fire, illustrating a practical role within warfare rather than a fantastical one. These professional ninjas were actively hired between 1485 and 1581. Specifically, the Iga professionals were sought after for their skill at siege warfare or shirotori, which included night attacks and ambush. By the 1460s, leading families in these regions had established de facto independence from their shugo. The Go Kagami Furoku writes of the clan's origins. There was a retainer of the family of Kawai Aki no Kami of Iga, of preeminent skill in shinobi, and consequently, for generations, the name of people from Iga became established. Likewise, a supplement to the Nochi Kagami confirms this origin, noting that ninja whose names were famous throughout the land served Ashikaga Yoshihisa. Following the Battle of Okahazama in 1560, Tokugawa employed 80 Koga ninja, led by Tomo Tsukasada, who raided an Imagawa clan outpost, an account recorded in the Mikawa Go Fudoki. Later records describe ninja tactics detailed in manuscripts, such as Kanrin Sayo and Bansen Shukai, including methods for stealthy movement and combat. The history of ninjutsu schools dates to around the 12th century, when Daisuke Togakure and Kain Doshi formalized guerrilla tactics. By the Sengoku period, shinobi roles included spy, scout, surprise attacker, and agitator. During the Shimabara Rebellion, 1637 to 1638, Koga ninja were recruited by Tokugawa Iemitsu against Christian rebels at Hara Castle. A diary kept by a member of the Matsudara clan details their reconnaissance missions and infiltration tactics. The Yukai Diary, written by a descendant of Yukai Kanamon, further describes these actions. With the fall of Hara Castle, the rebellion ended, marking what is considered the last detailed record of ninja in warfare. The accounts of shinobi that have survived into our time are often intertwined with myth and legend, a phenomenon particularly pronounced in the centuries following their active employment as agents of war. While earlier records detail their roles as spies, scouts, and infiltrators, functions vital during periods of conflict, like the Sengoku period, later portrayals frequently elevate these historical realities into narratives of near-supernatural abilities. The popular image of the ninja as a master of stealth capable of vanishing into thin air or scaling sheer walls with ease, is largely a product of this later mythologization. This shift isn't necessarily indicative of malicious intent. Rather, it reflects a tendency to romanticize and embellish historical figures and events over time. The word ninja itself wasn't commonly used historically, with regional colloquialisms like monomi, nokizaru, or simply igamono more prevalent in describing these individuals. Even the term ninja, derived from the kanji for concealment, became a broader descriptor later on. It's important to recognize that while shinobi performed extraordinary tasks within the context of their time, infiltration requiring considerable skill and bravery, these actions were rooted in practical tactics rather than fantastical abilities. The modern conception of the ninja often overshadows the reality of individuals operating under conditions of significant risk, performing duties that demanded ingenuity and resilience more than inherent magical powers. The narratives surrounding figures like Hattori Hanzo, for instance, exemplify this trend. While historical records confirm his service to Tokugawa Ieyasu, accounts attributing him with leading a vast army of ninja during the siege of Osaka are likely later fabrications intended to enhance the prestige of the Iga and Koka clans within the shogunate. These stories circulated primarily in Edo period publications, suggesting a deliberate effort to construct a romanticized image rather than accurately reflect historical events. These accounts, while providing glimpses into ninja activities during the Shimabara Rebellion, also highlight the challenges of separating fact from embellishment even within ostensibly historical records. The Yukai Diary, for instance, presents a detailed narrative of Koga involvement, but its perspective is inherently biased toward glorifying their actions and contributions to the shogunate victory. It's crucial to acknowledge that such chronicles were often produced after the events they describe, potentially incorporating later interpretations and exaggerations intended to serve political or clan-based agendas. The very act of documenting ninja operations, traditionally conducted in utmost secrecy, suggests a degree of self-promotion or justification on the part of those involved, further complicating efforts at objective historical reconstruction. While the diary details specific tasks like flag capture and reconnaissance, it is difficult to ascertain the accuracy of casualty figures or the extent of their overall impact on the siege's outcome. The descriptions of ninja infiltrating Hara Castle as they pleased likely overstates their ease of movement. Any infiltration would have been fraught with peril, requiring meticulous planning and considerable luck. The chronicles we possess regarding shinobi operations are often fragmented and filtered through layers of interpretation. It's crucial to acknowledge that direct, contemporaneous accounts detailing their activities are remarkably scarce. Much of what we understand about ninja comes from later sources, clan histories, war chronicles, and even Edo period records, all produced well after the events they describe. These documents frequently blend fact with embellishment, serving purposes beyond simple historical documentation. Political agendas, clan rivalries, and a desire to elevate the status of particular families often colored these narratives, making it difficult to separate verifiable details from deliberate fabrications or exaggerations. The very nature of shinobi work, conducted in secrecy and designed to remain hidden, inherently limits the availability of primary sources. Those engaged in such clandestine activities were unlikely to leave behind detailed records that could be recovered centuries later. Consequently, historians must rely heavily on secondary accounts, which are susceptible to biases and distortions introduced by those who recorded them. For example, descriptions found within chronicles like the Amakusa Gunki Diary regarding Koga ninja infiltrating Hara Castle as they pleased likely overstates their ease of movement. Any infiltration would have been fraught with peril, requiring meticulous planning and considerable luck. Furthermore, the very terminology used to describe these operatives presents a challenge. The word ninja, as we understand it today, wasn't consistently applied in earlier periods. Instead, a variety of regional colloquialisms were employed, terms like monomi, nokizaru, rapper, and igamono, each carrying slightly different connotations. Even the more common term shinobi appeared primarily in written records, suggesting that it may have been a formal designation rather than an everyday descriptor. This linguistic fluidity complicates efforts to identify and categorize individuals engaged in what we now consider ninja activities. These accounts, while providing glimpses into shinobi activities during the Shimabara Rebellion, also highlight the challenges inherent in interpreting such sources. The Amakusa Gunki, for instance, was written by a member of the Matsudaira clan, and its purpose was likely to portray their forces favorably, potentially exaggerating the ease with which Koga ninja infiltrated Hara Castle. Similarly, the Yukai Diary, while offering detailed descriptions of reconnaissance missions, represents the perspective of one family involved in the conflict and may reflect biases or incomplete information. The very act of recording these events, often decades after they occurred, introduces further layers of potential distortion. Moreover, the individuals who compiled these records frequently lacked a comprehensive understanding of shinobi tactics and motivations, leading to inaccurate assumptions and embellishments. Consequently, while these secondary sources offer valuable insights into the perceived role of ninja in warfare, their reliability must be carefully assessed within the context of their creation and purpose. The scarcity of corroborating evidence from independent sources further complicates efforts to reconstruct an accurate picture of what shinobi actually did during this period. The term ninja, or more accurately shinobi, as it came to be known, wasn't consistently used throughout Japanese history. Earlier designations included regional colloquialisms like monomi and nokizaru, the word shinobi itself appearing in written records as early as the late 8th century, derives from characters meaning to steal away or to hide. During the Sengoku period, a time of widespread unrest, families within Iga province and the adjacent Koka district formed self-defense leagues known as Iki. These groups began offering their services as mercenaries and spies, contributing to the emergence of distinct regional approaches to espionage. The Iga and Koka regions became particularly recognized for these activities. Historical accounts suggest that the remoteness and mountainous terrain of Iga may have facilitated the development of secretive practices. A chronicle known as Go Kagami Furoku attributes the establishment of a reputation for shinobi specifically to Iga, while another record, Nochi Kagami, details how Kawai Aki no Kami's retainers in Iga gained prominence through their skills in stealth and reconnaissance during military campaigns. Following the conquest of Koka by Oda Nobunaga in 1574, a formal alliance between the two regions was documented in a constitutional document around 1560, demonstrating a period of cooperative effort. This collaboration included joint operations, such as the reported infiltration of an Imagawa clan castle led by Tomo Sukesada and Koga ninja, where they set fire to towers and eliminated defenders. The differing terrains of Iga and Koka also likely contributed to their distinct approaches. The rugged, forested landscape of Iga may have encouraged a focus on individual stealth and infiltration, while the more open terrain of Koka might have fostered techniques emphasizing coordinated group actions and deception. Accounts suggest that Iga ninja were often solitary operatives, skilled in disguise and silent movement, whereas Koga ninja frequently worked in small teams to create diversions or execute complex plans. Following the Tokugawa shogunate's establishment in 1603, overt military activities diminished, but shinobi continued to operate, albeit with altered roles and increased secrecy. Records from the Edo period indicate that some families maintained traditions of ninjutsu as a means of private security or for use by local lords. A diary kept by a descendant of Yukai Kanemon details how Koga ninja were employed in reconnaissance during the Shimabara Rebellion, 1637 to 1638. These individuals reportedly infiltrated Hara Castle, gathering intelligence on its defenses and provisions. The Yukai diary notes that these missions carried significant risk, with some operatives sustaining serious injuries. One entry describes a raid where Koga ninja captured an enemy flag, highlighting the continued use of stealth tactics even in large-scale conflicts. The Tokugawa shogunate's establishment in 1603 brought a reduction in overt military activities, but shinobi continued to operate, albeit with altered roles and increased secrecy. Records from the Edo period indicate that some families maintained traditions of ninjutsu as a means of private security or for use by local lords. A diary kept by a descendant of Yukai Kanemon details how Koga ninja were employed in reconnaissance during the Shimabara Rebellion, 1637 to 1638. These individuals reportedly infiltrated Hara Castle, gathering intelligence on its defenses and provisions. The Yukai diary notes that these missions carried significant risk, with some operatives sustaining serious injuries. One entry describes a raid where Koga ninja captured an enemy flag, highlighting the continued use of stealth tactics even in large-scale conflicts. Understanding what shinobi actually did requires examining the sources describing their training and operations. Popular depictions often portray them as possessing extraordinary physical abilities, running up walls or catching arrows, but primary source materials present a considerably different picture, one focused on reliability rather than athletic prowess. The Bansen Shukai, compiled in 1676, emphasizes mission success, the consistent ability to gather accurate intelligence, infiltrate successfully, and return undetected as the core objective of shinobi training. A physically exceptional operative who was psychologically unreliable or technically unskilled would be considered useless. Physical conditioning did feature in training, but with a specific operational focus. Endurance for long-distance movement under adverse conditions at night through difficult terrain, while carrying equipment, was prioritized. Silent movement achieved through careful foot placement and breathing control was treated as a technical skill developed through repetition. Climbing walls and traversing water obstacles also received attention, requiring the use of tools like hand claws and foot claws. A unique aspect involved physical disguise, altering gait, posture, and apparent height to maintain a false identity demanded deliberate physical control. What is notably absent from these primary sources are feats such as wall running or superhuman jumping. These appear to be theatrical elaborations rather than historical training methods. Beyond the physical, psychological discipline was considered foundational. Maintaining composure under pressure, enduring confinement, or waiting motionless during surveillance required suppressing fear and discomfort. Reading human psychology, understanding motivations and vulnerabilities was a documented area of study. Equally important was independent decision-making. Shinobi operating alone needed to judge when to proceed, abort, or improvise. Knowledge itself constituted a significant component of training. Terrain, weather patterns, social customs, and the properties of poisons were all considered essential operational tools. The Bansen Shukai itself represents an attempt to codify knowledge previously transmitted orally within family lineages, a practice that ensured secrecy but also made it vulnerable to disruption. The popular image of a ninja, a figure cloaked in black, scaling walls with impossible agility, bears little resemblance to what historical records reveal about shinobi, rural intelligence specialists during periods of conflict. What began as rogue militias evolved into organized networks, providing espionage services for feudal lords. These were skilled operatives whose value lay in gathering information and navigating complex social landscapes, a skill set more akin to that of a modern intelligence agent than a fantastical warrior. Shinobi emerged as distinct practitioners during the Nanbokucho period in the 14th century, with their activities intensifying throughout the Sengoku period. Iga Province and Koka District became recognized centers for their expertise, fostering a unique environment where peasant warriors relied on shinobi for survival. The Bansen Shukai, a comprehensive manual synthesizing multiple traditions, emphasizes seishin, a righteous heart, above all practical skills, underscoring their role as individuals bound by ethical considerations. Popular media has transformed shinobi into figures of myth and legend, but the true story lies in understanding them within a specific historical context. Recent research reveals complex logistical support networks extending across provinces, highlighting their integration into regional economies. Domain records from the Sengoku period indicate that while Iga and Koka remained prominent centers, operatives were deployed by other feudal lords throughout Japan. Records often conceal their function using coded language, while narratives portray shinobi as operating in complete secrecy. Evidence suggests cooperation and occasional conflict existed between different ninja clans. Historical ninja were intelligence operatives, not supernatural assassins. Japanese academic research at Mi University's International Ninja Research Center has established that shinobi verifiably existed from the 14th century as spies and mercenary scouts. The 3 surviving ninjutsu manuals reveal professionals whose core skills were disguise, psychology, and patient information gathering. The word ninja, itself a relatively modern pronunciation, obscures this reality. From rogue militias, some evolved into the remarkable Iga Sokoku Iki, a self-governing military republic with a written constitution. A Jesuit dictionary published in 1603 defines shinobi as precisely a spy for intelligence. The Bansen Shukai emphasizes ethics above fighting technique, that ninjutsu must never be used for selfish purposes, fundamentally contradicting the mercenary assassin image. Discoveries include manuscripts at the Sanada Treasure Museum and the U.S. Library of Congress. The iconic black ninja costume derives from kabuki stagehands dressed in dark navy to blend into night operations. Shuriken throwing is a theatrical invention. Historical shinobi used standard weapons, emphasizing fire tools and lockpicks over bladed ones. The transformation into cultural icons occurred through Edo period theater and the Shinobi no Mono film series. The establishment of Mi University's International Ninja Research Center marked a watershed, conducting research including a fire laboratory and peer-reviewed journal. This ongoing academic revolution suggests the full historical picture remains incomplete. The enduring image of the ninja, a shadowy figure flitting through the night, has captivated imaginations worldwide, but it bears little resemblance to the historical reality. While popular media depicts them as superhuman assassins, the true story of the shinobi is far more nuanced and complex than fiction suggests. Shinobi Arts, a Japan-based platform dedicated to uncovering this authentic history, emphasizes that the real ninja are often misunderstood, their legacy obscured by layers of myth and entertainment. The word ninja, itself a later term, obscures the historical designation shinobi, carrying different weight and significance. The Bansen Shukai, a comprehensive manual from 1676, serves as a primary source for understanding shinobi practice. It reveals that these operatives were typically employed by samurai lords to perform tasks beyond conventional military capabilities, intelligence gathering, infiltration, sabotage. Far from being enemies, shinobi functioned within the same feudal structure as their samurai employers, often operating under their direct command. Tokugawa Ieyasu, for instance, actively recruited former shinobi from the Iga region, following a devastating attack, integrating them into his security forces at Edo Castle. Similarly, Takeda Shingen organized specialist intelligence networks composed of individuals drawn from various social backgrounds within his domain, demonstrating that covert operations were an integral part of samurai military strategy. The Rokkaku clan's alliance with Koka Shinobi, exemplifies another model, a mutually beneficial arrangement where autonomy was exchanged for specialized military support. Even the social origins of these operatives blurred lines. While some came from lower-ranking samurai families, others originated from non-samurai backgrounds, united by their unique skill sets rather than hereditary status. The popular narrative of an eternal conflict between ninja and samurai is a later invention. Born from post-war Japanese fiction and amplified by Western media, a dramatic simplification that obscures the historical truth. The Rokkaku clan's arrangement with Koka Shinobi highlights a nuanced understanding of military advantage, one that prioritized regional stability and specialized support over ideological purity. Similarly, domain records from the Takeda domain reveal that individuals designated as Mitsumono intelligence gatherers were sometimes granted temporary samurai status upon successful completion of particularly sensitive missions. This practice blurred social lines, demonstrating that skill in covert operations could occasionally supersede hereditary rank within a feudal hierarchy. The Bansen Shukai itself details methods for disguising shinobi operatives as monks or merchants to facilitate infiltration, further illustrating the fluidity between social roles necessary for effective clandestine work. While these individuals were not permanently elevated to samurai status, the temporary recognition underscored the value placed on their contributions and acknowledged their role in achieving strategic objectives. The historical record suggests that the rigid separation of classes often portrayed in later narratives was more permeable during periods of intense conflict and shifting power dynamics. The word ninja resonates globally, conjuring images of shadowy figures, scaling walls and performing impossible feats. However, this popular conception bears little resemblance to what historical records reveal about individuals designated as Mitsumono. Contemporary media has transformed these operatives into a fantasy archetype, a silent assassin in black, a superhuman acrobat, a creature of pure shadow and violence. These portrayals are entertaining but fundamentally distort the reality of their function and training. The disconnect stems from a conflation of historical practice with later embellishments and fictional narratives. Shinobi Arts, a Japan-based media platform, aims to bridge this gap by grounding its content in primary sources, historical manuals written by and for actual shinobi practitioners. They note that the term ninja itself became widespread only in the 20th century. Historically, these individuals referred to themselves as shinobi. This distinction is important, reflecting a shift in terminology and perception over time. The Bansen Shukai, a comprehensive historical manual compiled in 1676, serves as a primary reference point for understanding authentic shinobi practices. It emphasizes that the foundation of their work was not physical prowess, but mission reliability, the consistent ability to gather accurate intelligence, infiltrate successfully, and return undetected. This framing shapes the nature of their training, which prioritized psychological resilience and knowledge acquisition over athletic extremes often depicted in popular culture. This divergence between popular depictions and historical practice extends to the very tools attributed to shinobi. While contemporary media often showcases an array of specialized gadgets, smoke bombs, grappling hooks, poisoned darts, the Bansen Shukai, and other primary sources offer a more restrained inventory. These manuals emphasize practicality over novelty. Devices were employed when they offered a distinct advantage in infiltration or evasion, but were not relied upon as core capabilities. The focus remained on adaptability and resourcefulness, rather than dependence on specialized equipment. For instance, the ability to create distractions using readily available materials, a thrown stone, a carefully placed noise, was valued more highly than any manufactured device. Similarly, disguises frequently involved repurposing common garments or altering hairstyles to blend into the target environment, demonstrating an understanding of social cues and local customs rather than requiring elaborate costumes. The Shoninki highlights this principle by stressing that a shinobi's greatest asset was their ability to observe, analyze, and exploit situational opportunities, a skill honed through rigorous training in perception and improvisation. This approach underscores the importance of minimizing reliance on external tools, as these could be easily detected or confiscated, compromising an entire mission. The popular image of a shinobi, a figure clad entirely in black, scaling walls and flinging projectiles, often diverges significantly from historical reality. Scholarly investigation into these individuals has revealed a more nuanced picture, one shaped by the practical demands of warfare and espionage during Japan's Sengoku period. Early references to figures resembling shinobi appear in the Taiheki, a 14th-century chronicle detailing conflicts between imperial courts. These accounts suggest that individuals performing covert operations were employed on both sides of these early battles. While popular narratives frequently portray shinobi as peasants rebelling against samurai overlords, this is an oversimplification. While recruits could indeed come from the peasantry and receive training from a young age, many were also samurai, undertaking specialized, often disreputable assignments. The case of Hattori Hanzo, traditionally considered a quintessential shinobi, exemplifies this complexity. He was himself a samurai who served Tokugawa Ieyasu. These individuals primarily originated from regions like Iga and Koga, situated outside Kyoto. Their roles extended beyond assassination, encompassing espionage, arson, and sabotage activities designed to undermine the enemy's strength through information gathering and disruption. The legends surrounding Yusugi Kenshin's death, attributed to a shinobi hidden within his latrine, illustrate the mystique that developed around these operatives, though more probable explanations involve illness. The academic debate concerning shinobi often centers on differentiating between idealized portrayals and demonstrable historical function. Some scholars emphasize the importance of Yo-9 skills, openly engaging in ways that avoid suspicion, while others highlight the necessity of In-9 or nighttime covert operations. This dichotomy reflects a broader understanding. Effective shinobi required both the ability to operate unseen and to convincingly blend into their surroundings, adapting their methods to suit the specific circumstances of each mission. This emphasis on both covert and overt skills highlights a crucial aspect of shinobi effectiveness, their ability to navigate complex social landscapes while simultaneously operating outside conventional norms. The Bansen Shukai, a compilation of ninja manuals from the late 16th century, further elaborates on this duality, suggesting that Yo-9 techniques were often considered more valuable than In-9. This perspective underscores the importance of deception and social engineering in achieving strategic objectives, convincing targets to reveal information or subtly influencing events without resorting to overt violence. The manuals also detail methods for gathering intelligence through seemingly innocuous interactions, such as posing as merchants, pilgrims, or even beggars, allowing shinobi to move freely within enemy territory while collecting valuable data on troop movements, fortifications, and political alliances. These techniques required a deep understanding of local customs, dialects, and social hierarchies, skills often honed through rigorous training and observation. The scarcity of written records concerning shinobi presents a significant challenge to historians seeking to understand their activities and roles within pre-modern Japan. Unlike samurai, who left behind extensive documentation detailing their training, conduct, and social standing, accounts of shinobi are often fragmented, appearing in chronicles that mention them incidentally or embedded within broader narratives of warfare and political intrigue. This absence necessitates reliance on alternative sources, oral traditions, folklore, and later compilations like the Bansen Shukai, which require careful scrutiny due to potential embellishment or distortion over time. The very term ninja, as we understand it today, was not consistently used historically. Instead, a variety of regional colloquialisms described individuals performing similar functions. The word shinobi itself, appearing in texts dating back to the 8th century, literally means to steal away, to hide. This etymological link underscores the core principle guiding shinobi operations: concealment and subterfuge. While these terms offer glimpses into their activities, they rarely provide detailed accounts of individual missions or internal organization. The social origins of shinobi are also obscured, often described as individuals who operated outside conventional norms, trading services for money, without seeking honor or glory, a circumstance that encouraged secrecy and discouraged the creation of formal records. Historical documents suggest a system of rank existed within ninja groups, with jonin leading and genin carrying out missions, but these structures remain largely inferred from scattered references rather than detailed organizational charts. The accounts in manuscripts, such as Kanrin Seiyo, detail fighting techniques and scenarios, allowing historians to deduce aspects of their training and operational environments. The accounts within these manuscripts offer a glimpse into potential training regimens and operational contexts, but remain filtered through layers of time and interpretation. Oral histories, passed down through generations within families or communities connected to shinobi activities, present another avenue for understanding their experiences. However, these narratives are susceptible to embellishment, mythologization, and the unintentional distortion that accompanies oral transmission. The very act of storytelling can transform events, amplifying heroic deeds or obscuring uncomfortable truths. Distinguishing between verifiable fact and folklore becomes a significant challenge when relying solely on such accounts. Furthermore, the motivations behind preserving and transmitting these stories are crucial to consider. Tales might be shaped to enhance family prestige, justify past actions, or simply entertain audiences. Despite these limitations, oral histories can provide valuable insights into aspects of shinobi life that may not appear in formal documents, details about daily routines, local customs, or personal relationships. The challenge lies in critically evaluating the source's reliability and context, recognizing that even seemingly straightforward narratives are often products of cultural memory rather than precise historical records. These traditions frequently portray ninja as possessing supernatural abilities or engaging in feats of extraordinary skill, blurring the line between reality and legend. The popular image of ninja training, running up walls, catching arrows mid-air, enduring extreme temperatures, contrasts with what historical sources reveal. These accounts depict a sophisticated approach centered on mission reliability rather than physical supremacy. The Bansen Shukai, compiled in 1676, frames shinobi training not as an athletic endeavor, but as the consistent ability to gather intelligence, infiltrate enemy positions successfully, and return undetected. A physically powerful ninja lacking psychological stability or technical skill was deemed operationally useless. Physical conditioning did feature in historical accounts, though with a specific purpose: endurance for long-distance movement under adverse conditions at night, through difficult terrain while carrying equipment. Silent movement was emphasized. Foot placement, weight distribution, and breathing control were treated as learnable skills developed through repetition. Climbing walls and traversing water obstacles involved documented techniques and tools like hand and foot claws. Equally important was the ability to alter one's physical presence, height, gait, posture, to sustain a false identity, requiring deliberate physical control. What is notably absent from these sources are superhuman feats often associated with ninja in popular culture. Wall running or combat acrobatics are theatrical elaborations rather than historical training methods. Psychological discipline formed the bedrock of shinobi preparation, maintaining composure under pressure, enduring surveillance, or upholding a false identity required suppressing fear and discomfort. The Shoninki defines the ideal ninja character by this capacity for endurance. Indeed, the kanji representing shinobi embodies perseverance through hardship. Understanding human psychology, how targets think, what motivates them, and how they can be manipulated, was documented training. This extended to knowledge acquisition, terrain, weather patterns, social customs, all critical operational tools. The Bansen Shukai details edible plants and their seasonal availability for sustaining operations in remote areas where resupply was impossible. Recognizing animal tracks could provide early warning of potential threats or reveal patrol movements. This practical knowledge included understanding how to utilize natural resources, crafting cordage from plant fibers, identifying potable water sources, employing local materials for camouflage. The transmission of this ecological expertise occurred alongside other skills within Shinobi lineages. Understanding regional dialects and customs, a crucial element in maintaining cover identities, was also emphasized. A Shinobi's ability to convincingly mimic local speech patterns or adhere to etiquette could be the difference between success and exposure. This knowledge required cultural sensitivity and observational acuity, qualities actively cultivated through training exercises designed to simulate real-world scenarios. Shinobi knowledge was transmitted within family lineages rather than formal schools. The Bansen Shukai represents an attempt to codify and preserve knowledge previously passed down orally. Contemporary ninjutsu schools teach physical techniques and philosophical elements drawn from classical sources, but the historical emphasis on psychology, social performance, knowledge acquisition, and mission reliability has no direct equivalent in modern martial arts practice. The term ninja, widely recognized across the globe, carries a weight of misconception. Popular media has shaped this figure into a fantasy archetype, a silent assassin cloaked in darkness, possessing superhuman agility and wielding fantastical weaponry. These portrayals are entertaining, but they bear little resemblance to what historical records reveal about those who were known as shinobi. The disconnect between the fictional ninja and their historical counterparts is significant, and understanding that difference requires examining the cultural significance attached to these individuals, a significance that extends far beyond mere military function. The term ninja itself warrants clarification. While now commonplace in international discourse, it's a relatively recent construct. Historically, practitioners referred to themselves as shinobi. This distinction is important. Ninja emerged primarily in the 20th century, while shinobi denotes a deeper connection to their historical practice and identity. The very foundation of that identity, according to the most comprehensive manual of ninjutsu ever compiled, the Bansen Shukai rests not on technical skill, but on something far more profound. A shinobi lacking this seishin, however skilled in combat or espionage, was deemed to be without legitimacy, their abilities serving no proper purpose. This emphasis on character highlights the broader cultural role of the shinobi. They were not simply assassins. They were intelligence specialists whose actions demanded a complex moral framework. The Igaryu Ninja Museum, located within one of the historical heartlands of shinobi practice, collaborates with shinobi arts to excavate and present this reality, drawing on original artifacts and documents that reveal a far more nuanced picture than popular fiction allows. This understanding extends beyond mere technique. It encompasses philosophy, spirit, and a deeper meaning rooted in Japanese thought, a legacy that continues to shape perceptions of both Japan and its history worldwide. This broader understanding of seishin and its centrality to shinobi practice also informs how they were perceived beyond their immediate communities. The Igaryu Ninja Museum's collaborative work with shinobi arts highlights that popular depictions often obscure this crucial element, contributing to a distorted global image. While the term ninja gained widespread recognition in the 20th century, a linguistic distinction from the historical designation of shinobi, its association with fantastical portrayals, has overshadowed the reality of their role as intelligence specialists operating within a complex moral framework. The Bansen Shukai itself, compiled in 1676 by Fujibayashi Yasutake and synthesizing traditions across multiple shinobi schools, serves as a primary source for understanding this nuanced perspective. demonstrating that technical skill was secondary to inner character. This emphasis on seishin has resonated through Japanese culture, influencing perceptions of national identity and contributing to the enduring fascination with these figures worldwide. The image of the ninja, a shadowy figure moving with superhuman agility, often obscures a more complex reality. While popular culture casts them as enemies of samurai, historical records reveal a nuanced relationship. The debate isn't one of opposing factions, but reflects contrasting tactical philosophies. Samurai adhered to formal warfare etiquette and open combat, while shinobi were covert specialists employing stealth, espionage, and asymmetric warfare to achieve strategic military goals. They were frequently and crucially samurai themselves, operating within the same social structures. The Bansen Shukai, a 1676 manual synthesizing traditions across multiple schools, emphasizes that technical skill was secondary to seishin, or righteous heart. This principle resonates throughout Japanese culture and contributes to the ongoing fascination with these figures. The text assumes a patron-client relationship as its baseline context. Shinobi do not operate autonomously, but in service of a military superior. Similarly, the shoninki frames practice within this framework of service and loyalty, articulating values consistent with those held by samurai. Tokugawa Ieyasu's recruitment of Iga shinobi, following the destruction of Iga province, exemplifies this dynamic. They were retainers performing specialized functions within a samurai-led structure, not rogue agents acting against samurai interests. The arrangement between the Rokkaku clan and the Koka alliance further illustrates this point. It was a mutual agreement where Koka's autonomy was exchanged for military support when needed, demonstrating that shinobi-lord relationships varied based on circumstance. These arrangements highlight a crucial point: the distinction between idealized portrayals of shinobi and their practical roles within feudal society. The popular image often depicts ninja as operating outside established hierarchies. However, primary sources consistently demonstrate integration within existing structures. This is further underscored by examining the social origins of those who practiced ninjutsu. While some were drawn from lower-ranking samurai or jisamurai families, local warrior retainers, others originated from farmers, craftsmen, and itinerant communities. The defining characteristic was specialized skill in covert operations, a fluidity that blurred social boundaries during the Sengoku period when shinobi activity flourished. This contrasts with later Edo period rigidities. The term ninja, gaining widespread use only in the 20th century, reveals how retrospective interpretations have shaped perceptions of historical actors who primarily identified as shinobi. Examining the motivations behind popular narratives, the dramatic convenience of opposing archetypes, and the post-war idealization of samurai values reveals that the eternal enemies trope lacks foundation. The Bansen Shukai's emphasis on seishin exemplifies this point. It places moral clarity above technical skill, a value consistent with samurai ideals adapted to specialized operational contexts. The meaningful distinction between samurai and shinobi is one of method rather than morality. Samurai operated through formal military engagement. Shinobi operated through concealment, intelligence, and deception. Both served the same lords and operated within the same feudal structures. The popular image of ninja and samurai as eternal enemies has little foundation in historical record. Japanese academic research has established that shinobi verifiably existed from the 14th century as spies, saboteurs, and mercenary scouts. Their core skills were disguise, psychology, pharmacology, and patient information-gathering operatives closer to modern intelligence agents than to the superhumans of popular imagination. The emergence of shinobi is traced to the 14th century Nanbakucho period, arising from Akuto, rogue militias that gained influence during the collapse of the Kamakura shogunate. The Sengoku period became their golden age, with Iga province and Koka district emerging as centers of expertise. A Jesuit dictionary published in Nagasaki in 1603 defines shinobi as precisely a spy for intelligence, not a supernatural assassin. The word ninja, a modern pronunciation, became standardized only in the mid-20th century. In Iga, roughly 300 to 500 small estates supported a confederation of jisamurai, peasant warriors who formed the remarkable Iga Sokoku Ikki, a self-governing military republic with a written constitution based on mutual defense. The International Ninja Research Center at Mie University conducts systematic research, including testing incendiary recipes and publishing the peer-reviewed journal Ninja Kenkyu. Recent discoveries include a previously unknown Bansen Shukai manuscript and a ninjutsu document from the U.S. Library of Congress. Mie University has launched the world's first master's degree in ninja studies, reflecting an ongoing academic revolution that suggests the full historical picture remains incomplete. New textual analysis suggests women were sometimes employed for specific tasks requiring discretion and access to spaces denied men, such as gathering information from households or delivering messages disguised as pilgrims. The Bansen Shukai, while primarily focused on male training, contains a brief passage detailing the use of female messengers. The possibility that some women were trained in specialized skills like poison preparation remains uncertain. Analysis of estate records from Iga province indicates a complex system of patronage and reciprocal obligations between landowners and ninja families, suggesting a form of proto-industrial organization where specialized skills were integrated into local economies. The transformation of shinobi from mundane spies to cultural icons occurred over centuries. The iconic black ninja costume derives directly from the convention of kuroko, kabuki, stagehands dressed in black. This image became associated with ninjas beginning in 1801. Later, Yamada Futaro's novels and the Shinobi no Mono film series further solidified many visual elements of pop culture ninja: hoods, shuriken, clan wars, and female operatives. The establishment of the International Ninja Research Center at Mie University marked a watershed moment. Led by Professor Yamada Yuji, the center studies historical manuals and publishes research. The ongoing academic revolution, with new manuscripts still being discovered in archives, suggests that the full historical picture remains incomplete. The real ninja story is still being written, one archival discovery at a time. The popular image of ninja and samurai as opposing forces is largely a product of later fiction, bearing little resemblance to their actual relationship within feudal Japan. Historical records reveal that shinobi were typically employed by samurai lords, functioning as specialist operatives within established military structures. The Bansen Shukai, the most comprehensive ninjutsu manual ever compiled, consistently addresses practitioners operating in service of a lord, assuming a patron-client dynamic. Similarly, the Shoninki frames shinobi practice through loyalty and service, not rejection of samurai values. Evidence suggests that many shinobi were drawn from lower-ranking samurai families or even non-samurai backgrounds possessing skills valuable for intelligence gathering and covert operations. During the Sengoku period, social boundaries were more fluid than later formalized under Tokugawa governance, allowing individuals to move between categories as their missions required. For instance, Tokugawa Ieyasu actively recruited shinobi following a devastating attack on the Iga province, utilizing them for security at Edo Castle, demonstrating integration rather than conflict. Likewise, Takeda Shingen organized specialist intelligence networks within his own domain, employing operatives disguised as monks and shrine attendants to gather information on rival lords. These examples illustrate that covert capabilities were considered standard military resources by prominent samurai commanders. The distinction lies not in morality or social standing, but in method. Samurai engaged in formal warfare, while shinobi specialized in deception and espionage, both serving the same feudal hierarchy. The relationship between the Rokkaku clan and Koka shinobi exemplifies a nuanced dynamic beyond simple employment. demonstrating how regional circumstances shaped these interactions. This alliance involved mutual recognition of autonomy. Koka maintained self-governance in exchange for military support from its shinobi networks when required by the Rokaku. Takeda Shingen's recruitment practices reveal a broader trend. Prominent samurai leaders actively developed their own specialist intelligence capabilities within their territories, rather than solely relying on established Iga or Koka operatives. Records detail 3 distinct operative categories within Shingen's service: Super for covert reconnaissance and political manipulation, Mitsumono disguised as itinerant religious figures to gather military information, and female shrine attendants who collected intelligence through divination practices, illustrating a sophisticated system of espionage integrated into his overall military strategy. The social origins of these individuals blurred the lines between samurai and shinobi. While some came from lower-ranking samurai families, others were drawn from non-samurai backgrounds, possessing valuable skills for covert operations. This fluidity in social categorization was particularly pronounced during the Sengoku period, when rigid class distinctions were less firmly enforced than they would later become under Tokugawa rule. The popular narrative of ninja and samurai as irreconcilable enemies is a relatively recent development, largely originating in post-war Japanese fiction and amplified by Western media portrayals. A stark contrast to the historical record which depicts shinobi as specialist operatives functioning within established feudal structures. The debate often represents a contrast of tactical philosophy rather than 2 opposing factions. Samurai were elite warriors bound by formal warfare etiquette, while shinobi utilized stealth, espionage, and asymmetric warfare to achieve strategic military goals. The image of the ninja or shinobi has traveled far beyond Japan's borders. Tales of these covert operatives have become deeply embedded within global popular culture, shaping international perceptions of Japanese history in ways that often diverge from historical reality. The rise of this archetype began during a period when understanding of Japanese history itself was evolving outside of Japan. The ninja emerged during the Sengoku period, a time of political upheaval and constant warfare. They were drawn from various backgrounds: peasant rebels, bandits, even temple monks, and their skills in espionage, sabotage, and assassination made them valuable assets for lords seeking to gain an advantage amidst conflict. Their primary skill was infiltration. They disguised themselves and moved through hostile territory undetected, often posing as ordinary people to gather information or carry out missions. This image of the shadowy operative has been repeatedly reproduced in literature, film, and video games across the world. The ninja's legacy lives on in popular culture, where they are often depicted as skilled assassins and martial artists, a romanticized portrayal that frequently obscures their actual role within feudal structures. The romanticized portrayal of the ninja has been amplified by their depiction in popular culture, particularly through adaptations and reinterpretations that often blend historical elements with fictional narratives. Early Western understandings of Japan frequently relied on sensationalized accounts and travelogues, which contributed to the construction of a mysterious and exotic image of the shinobi. These portrayals tended to emphasize stealth, disguise, and specialized weaponry, sometimes exaggerating their prevalence or effectiveness within actual military operations. The ninja's association with espionage further fueled this mystique. Clandestine activities inherently lend themselves to embellishment and speculation. While accounts from the Edo period occasionally mention individuals performing tasks considered ninja-like, these narratives were often filtered through a lens of folklore and legend, blurring the lines between historical fact and popular storytelling. This created an environment where later interpretations could draw upon both limited historical data and imaginative conjecture, resulting in the modern archetype. The proliferation of these narratives has contributed to a global fascination with the ninja archetype, often divorced from their historical context. While early Western depictions frequently emphasized exaggerated weaponry and fantastical abilities, reflecting limited understanding and sensationalized accounts, later interpretations have demonstrated a greater awareness of the complexities surrounding the shinobi's role, for example. Some contemporary films acknowledge the ninjas' function as scouts or messengers rather than solely assassins, though these portrayals often still incorporate elements of folklore and legend. The enduring appeal of the ninja archetype also stems from their association with rebellion and resistance. In a world increasingly captivated by tales of underdogs challenging established power structures, the image of clandestine operatives working outside conventional authority resonates strongly. This has led to adaptations that recast historical shinobi as symbols of defiance against oppressive regimes, further distancing them from their original function within feudal Japan. The image of the ninja, a silent assassin clad entirely in black, capable of superhuman feats, is a pervasive one across global popular culture. However, this portrayal bears little resemblance to what historical records reveal about those who practiced ninjutsu. The term ninja, as it is widely understood today, is itself a relatively recent construct, entering common English usage only in the mid-20th century. Those who performed clandestine operations in feudal Japan referred to themselves as shinobi. Shinobi Arts, a media platform dedicated to exploring the authentic history of these individuals, emphasizes that the true story of the shinobi is far more fascinating than any fiction. They contend that popular media has transformed the shinobi into a fantasy archetype, a silent assassin in black, a superhuman acrobat, a creature of pure shadow and violence images, which are entertaining but ultimately inaccurate representations of historical reality. This distortion stems from a complex interplay of theatrical traditions, literary embellishments, and modern cultural interpretations. One significant contributor to this fictionalization is kabuki theater. The iconic image of the ninja in black originates directly from kuroko, the stagehands dressed entirely in black, who served as invisible backdrop for performances. Similarly, early depictions often conflated shinobi with Shugendo mountain asceticism, attributing supernatural abilities that were not supported by historical accounts. Even the association of shuriken, throwing stars, as a standard ninja weapon, is largely a theatrical invention, absent from primary source documents detailing actual shinobi practices. This fictionalization was not solely a product of theatrical and literary embellishment. It also reflected broader cultural anxieties and evolving understandings of power during the Edo period, 1603 to 1868. As central authority consolidated under the Tokugawa shogunate, the role of clandestine operatives diminished. The very skills that had made shinobi valuable, disguise, infiltration, information gathering, became liabilities in a more controlled society. Consequently, memories of their activities became increasingly distorted and romanticized, often intertwined with folklore and religious beliefs. The samurai class, which largely supplanted the shinobi's role in statecraft, also contributed to this process by selectively incorporating aspects of ninjutsu into their own martial traditions, while simultaneously marginalizing the historical reality of those who practiced it. Even accounts from Jesuit missionaries, while providing some early descriptions of shinobi, often framed them within a European context of espionage and intrigue, further shaping perceptions through an external lens. The rediscovery of previously unknown documents in recent years, such as the manuscript found at Kazuraki Shrine, continues to challenge established narratives and reveal nuances that were obscured by centuries of fictionalization, demonstrating that our understanding of shinobi remains provisional and subject to revision based on new evidence. The popular image of ninja and samurai as eternal enemies has little basis in historical reality. The contrast often presented in modern storytelling, samurai as honorable warriors bound by a strict code, Shinobi as shadowy operatives working outside any code at all is dramatically convenient, but lacks foundation within the primary sources. Historically, shinobi were typically employed by samurai lords to perform tasks beyond the capabilities of conventional military force: intelligence gathering, infiltration, sabotage, and covert operations in enemy territory. They were not enemies. They were specialists hired by those who held power. The Bansen Shukai, a comprehensive ninjutsu manual from 1676, is addressed throughout to the shinobi practitioner operating in service of a lord, establishing a patron-client relationship as its baseline context. Similarly, the Shoninki, another key text from 1681, frames shinobi practice within terms of service and loyalty, addressing the ethical dimensions not as a rejection of samurai values, but as an articulation of commitment to one's superior. These texts assume integration within the feudal structure. They do not portray shinobi as independent agents or enemies of the samurai class. Tokugawa Ieyasu, for example, recruited significant numbers of shinobi from the Iga region after their province was destroyed by Oda Nobunaga in 1581. These operatives provided security for Edo Castle during the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate and were not rogue actors working against samurai interests. They were retainers within a feudal hierarchy, performing specialized functions. The relationship between the Rokkaku clan and the Kokugan shinobi networks provides another example. Structured as a mutual alliance that preserved Koka autonomy while providing military support to the Rokkaku, a unique arrangement reflecting specific regional conditions. The Takeda case illustrates a broader point. Major samurai commanders did not simply hire shinobi from established Iga and Koka networks. They organized their own covert capabilities, shaped by their specific strategic needs. Specialist intelligence work was a standard military resource, not something alien to the samurai world. These internal networks were often structured around existing social hierarchies. The Koyo Gunkan documents that Takeda Shingen's super operatives were assigned to senior retainers for intelligence and political manipulation operations across multiple provinces. The organization of these groups reflects an effort to integrate covert action within established command structures, rather than creating a separate or autonomous entity. Similarly, the Bansen Shukai emphasizes the importance of seishin, or righteous heart, as foundational to shinobi practice, a principle that aligns with broader samurai ethical codes and underscores their integration into feudal society. The site Shinobi Arts notes that this emphasis on moral character distinguishes historical shinobi from later fictional portrayals. This focus suggests an expectation that covert operatives would adhere to the same standards of loyalty and conduct expected of visible warriors, albeit applied within a different operational context. The popular image of shinobi often portrays individuals engaged in extreme physical feats, scaling walls, evading arrows, enduring harsh conditions. However, primary sources reveal a training regimen considerably different from this depiction, one focused on sophisticated skills rather than athletic prowess. The Bansen Shukai, a comprehensive historical manual of ninjutsu compiled in 1676, frames the purpose of shinobi training, not as physical supremacy, but as mission reliability. The consistent ability to gather accurate intelligence, infiltrate successfully, and return undetected. This understanding shapes the entire approach to preparation. Physical conditioning did feature in historical shinobi training, though with a specific operational focus. Endurance for long-distance movement under adverse conditions, like traveling at night through difficult terrain while carrying equipment, was essential. Silent movement achieved through deliberate foot placement and weight distribution was treated as a technical skill developed through repetition rather than an innate ability. Techniques for climbing walls and traversing water obstacles were documented and practiced, alongside methods for altering one's apparent height, gait, and posture to sustain a false identity, a form of training absent from conventional martial arts. What is notably missing from these accounts are the superhuman feats commonly associated with ninja in popular culture. Perhaps more importantly, psychological discipline formed the core of shinobi training. The Bansen Shukai and Shoninki emphasize mental fortitude as foundational, requiring practitioners to suppress fear, discomfort, and instinctual reactions while maintaining a false identity or during surveillance. Understanding human psychology, how targets think, what motivates them, and how they can be manipulated, was also documented as a crucial area of study. Training included exposure to difficult conditions like darkness and confinement, designed to reduce their impact on performance. The Bansen Shukai's emphasis on psychological discipline extended to methods for managing information and maintaining operational security. Practitioners were instructed not only to observe and analyze, but also to control what they revealed, both verbally and through non-verbal cues. This included techniques for deflecting questions, creating diversions, and subtly influencing the perceptions of those around them, a form of social engineering documented as essential for long-term infiltration. The manual details specific phrases and responses designed to elicit trust or redirect suspicion, alongside guidance on body language and posture intended to project an image of confidence and authority while concealing one's true intentions. Furthermore, training included methods for memorization and recall, recognizing that shinobi often had to retain vast amounts of information about targets, locations, and potential contingencies, a skill vital for effective improvisation in unpredictable situations. The preservation of secrecy was paramount. Protocols dictated how information should be shared within a group, minimizing the risk of compromise through careless communication or unauthorized disclosure. This focus on information control underscores the understanding that even the most skilled operative could be rendered ineffective by a single leak. The shinobi's skills faded with the rise of a modern government. The Meiji Restoration, beginning in 1868, led to significant changes within Japan, replacing the feudal system with a centralized authority and diminishing the need for covert operatives like the ninja. Their specialized abilities were no longer essential to the state's functions. Despite their practical obsolescence, the image of the shinobi has persisted beyond the era of feudal warfare. They have become a recurring motif in popular culture, appearing in films, literature, and video games. This enduring fascination speaks to broader interest in themes associated with the ninja: secrecy, skill, and an ability to operate outside conventional structures. The notion of someone capable of moving unseen, gathering intelligence, and acting decisively resonates even today. The shinobi's legacy also manifests in discussions surrounding espionage and covert operations. Modern intelligence agencies often evoke the historical image of the ninja, a symbol of stealth, adaptability, and a willingness to operate beyond established boundaries. This perception has fueled portrayals of the ninja within various media forms. While popular depictions frequently exaggerate their capabilities and frequency, they nevertheless contribute to the ongoing cultural resonance of the shinobi archetype. The image persists not as a reflection of historical reality. The actual scope and nature of shinobi operations remain difficult to ascertain definitively, but rather as an embodiment of certain ideals, resourcefulness, adaptability, and a willingness to operate outside conventional societal structures. This fascination extends beyond Japan. Western narratives often incorporate elements derived from the popular understanding of ninja abilities, further solidifying their place in global imagination. The term ninja has become shorthand for covert action and specialized skills, even when applied to contexts far removed from feudal Japan. The qualities associated with ninja adaptability, resourcefulness, and a capacity for operating outside established norms find echoes in various fields requiring discretion and expertise. The notion of a black ops team or specialized intelligence unit draws upon this cultural archetype, even if the practical realities differ significantly from historical accounts. These portrayals frequently emphasize fantastical elements, enhanced physical abilities, elaborate weaponry, that bear little resemblance to documented shinobi practices, but reinforce the enduring fascination with figures operating in the shadows. The persistence of this image speaks less to a continued reliance on historical ninja tactics and more to a broader cultural desire for narratives centered around individuals who challenge conventional power structures and possess unique capabilities. The image of the ninja persists beyond the feudal era, finding expression in modern Japan's cultural landscape. The qualities associated with these figures, adaptability and resourcefulness, resonate within contemporary society. Tales of legendary warriors capture the imagination of people far and wide. These warrior classes have a unique heritage, martial code and skill set that made them respected off the battlefield. The samurai's code of conduct, known as Bushido, continues to inspire individuals to live with honor, courage, and integrity. The samurai's dedication to martial arts also influenced the development of modern Japanese martial arts, such as judo, karate, and kendo. During the Edo period, the samurai class continued to play a prominent role in Japanese society, rooted in their feudal obligations to their lords. Nevertheless, they continued to wield considerable influence and prestige, serving as a symbol of traditional Japanese values and culture. Similarly, the ninja, or shinobi, have left a lasting impact on popular culture. The ninja were known for their stealth, agility, and espionage skills. They are often depicted in movies, comics, and video games as skilled martial artists, and their legend continues to capture the imagination of people around the world. Modern interpretations often emphasize fantastical elements, grappling hooks, smoke bombs, and elaborate costumes that may not reflect historical reality. However, interest in authentic ninjutsu practices has also grown. Several schools claim direct lineage from historic ninja clans, offering training in techniques that purportedly preserve aspects of traditional methods. These include taijutsu, unarmed combat, shuriken jutsu, throwing weapons, and infiltration tactics. The extent to which these modern schools accurately represent historical shinobi skills remains a subject of debate among historians and martial arts scholars. Museums dedicated to samurai and ninja history have emerged across Japan, providing exhibits on weaponry, armor, and tools used by these warriors. These institutions often present historical context alongside displays of artifacts, aiming to educate visitors about the realities of feudal warfare and espionage. Historians have attempted to disentangle the distinct functions of samurai and ninja within feudal society. Records indicate that while some samurai may have engaged in espionage or covert operations as a supplement to their martial duties, the shinobi were typically drawn from rural communities, often peasant stock, and operated outside of the established warrior class. Their skills were frequently contracted by daimyo, feudal lords, who sought information on rivals or needed assistance with unconventional military tasks. The precise extent of ninja involvement in major historical events remains difficult to ascertain due to the clandestine nature of their activities and the scarcity of reliable documentation. The Meiji Restoration marked the end of the samurai era, stripping away their privileges and leading many into new careers. The rise of a centralized government also diminished the need for shinobi skills. Despite this disappearance, the image of the ninja has remained a popular icon in Japanese culture. Their legacy continues to inspire and captivate people around the world, influencing modern martial arts and fashion. The image of a shadowy figure scaling castle walls and striking unseen has become synonymous with the ninja. However, this popular depiction diverges from historical reality. The term ninja, originating from the Chinese word, is often used interchangeably with shinobi, The native Japanese designation derived from Shinobi no Mono, meaning one who endures, hides. Early references to individuals performing clandestine activities appear in the 14th century Taiheki, a chronicle documenting conflicts during the Nanbokucho War. Both sides of this conflict employed such operatives, suggesting their existence predates the more familiar Sengoku period, beginning around the 15th century. While often portrayed as peasants rebelling against samurai lords, shinobi were sometimes recruited from the peasantry and trained from childhood. Others were samurai undertaking unconventional assignments, considered dishonorable. Hattori Hanzo, a well-known figure, exemplifies this duality, serving alongside Tokugawa Ieyasu. The most recognized role of the shinobi, fueled by popular culture, is assassination. Yet, their activities extended far beyond targeted killings. They functioned primarily as spies, arsonists, and saboteurs, gathering intelligence on troop movements and fortress conditions within enemy territory. Accounts suggest Uesugi Kenshin's death was attributed to a shinobi, though this remains legend. Cancer is considered more likely by some historians. Their operations prioritized secrecy, making open combat counterproductive. Consequently, the exaggerated fighting prowess often ascribed to ninjas in fiction is largely unfounded. Following periods of conflict, these operatives transitioned into roles focused on maintaining stability, acting as secret observers who quelled unrest and reported potential plots to daimyo. The emphasis on disguise and deception highlights a crucial aspect of shinobi operations often overlooked: their integration into civilian society. A successful operative required not only physical skills, but also an acute understanding of local customs, dialects, and social hierarchies. Evidence suggests that some shinobi maintained long-term identities within communities, acting as merchants, farmers, or artisans to gather intelligence over extended periods. This ability to blend in was paramount. A shinobi's effectiveness hinged on remaining unnoticed until the moment of action. The Bansen Shukai, a compilation of ninja manuals from the 17th century, details methods for creating false identities and maintaining them through meticulous observation and mimicry. These included learning regional accents and adopting appropriate clothing to avoid suspicion. Furthermore, shinobi were expected to cultivate relationships with local informants, individuals who could provide valuable information about troop movements or potential threats. The success of these covert networks depended on the shinobi's ability to gain trust and establish rapport within the community, demonstrating that their role extended beyond clandestine missions into a form of subtle social engineering. The popular image of ninja and samurai as opposing forces is largely a product of later storytelling rather than historical reality. The relationship was more accurately that of specialist and employer. Shinobi were hired by samurai lords to perform tasks beyond the capabilities of conventional military force, intelligence gathering, infiltration, sabotage, and covert operations within enemy territory. They operated within samurai-led structures and shared much of the same social world. This arrangement is evident in surviving historical manuals like the Bansen Shukai and the Shoninki, both of which assume a patron-client relationship between shinobi and their lords. The Bansen Shukai, for example, is addressed to the shinobi practitioner operating in service of a lord, emphasizing that they do not operate autonomously but under military or political authority. The concept of the hidden warrior, the shinobi, is therefore intrinsically linked to this role as an agent working within rather than against the feudal system. This isn't simply about secrecy, it's about cultivating a persona that allows for effective operation behind enemy lines. The Bansen Shukai details methods of creating and maintaining false identities through meticulous observation and mimicry, including adopting regional accents and appropriate clothing to avoid suspicion. Their effectiveness depended on blending into the environment, a skill as much social as it was martial. Furthermore, Shinobi cultivated relationships with local informants, individuals who could provide valuable information about troop movements or potential threats. This required a subtle form of social engineering. Gaining trust and establishing rapport within the community were crucial for gathering intelligence and maintaining their cover. The cultivation of these relationships extended beyond mere information gathering. It involved a nuanced understanding of local customs and hierarchies. Shinobi often presented themselves as merchants or itinerant performers, roles that afforded them access to communities while minimizing suspicion. The Banzen Shukai details how Shinobi would learn regional dialects and adopt the clothing styles prevalent in specific areas, further enhancing their ability to blend seamlessly into the environment. This adaptability was not simply a matter of disguise. It reflected an acute awareness of social dynamics and a willingness to navigate them with subtlety and precision. The effectiveness of this approach hinged on maintaining a low profile, avoiding any actions that might draw unwanted attention or compromise their cover. Even seemingly minor details, such as the way one carried oneself or the topics one discussed, could betray a stranger's true identity. Furthermore, Shinobi were expected to demonstrate discretion in their interactions, carefully selecting whom they confided in and what information they shared. The Shoninki emphasizes that a shinobi's words are their most valuable weapon. Careless speech can unravel even the most meticulously crafted deception. This required not only intelligence gathering, but also an understanding of human psychology, the ability to read people's reactions, anticipate their movements, and manipulate their perceptions. The word ninja is recognized globally, but the story behind it, the history, philosophy, and cultural depth of the shinobi, remains largely unknown outside Japan. What exists today isn't a secret organization of covert operatives, but rather a historical tradition with genuine depth, serious scholarship, and a growing global audience. This tradition survived, though the profession itself did not persist in its original form. The last documented operational use of shinobi networks occurred during the early Edo period, when the Tokugawa shogunate pacified Japan and eliminated the conditions that made specialized covert operatives necessary. The most tangible surviving institution is the Igaryu Ninja Museum in Iga City, Mie Prefecture. Built on the geographic and cultural heartland of the historical Iga shinobi community, it preserves tools, weapons, clothing, architectural elements, primary sources, and documentation related to the tradition. Practitioners at the museum demonstrate techniques not as performance, but as a living transmission of documented knowledge. Descendant communities in Iga City and Koka City maintain historical records of their ancestry and preserve community memory. Several martial arts organizations claim lineage from historical shinobi traditions and teach what they describe as ninjutsu, though the authenticity of these practices is debated among scholars. The Bansen Shukai, Shoninki, and Ninpiden, three major shinobi manuals, survived into the modern era and exist today as primary historical documents that can be read and studied. The Igaryu Ninja Museum and descendant communities maintain records that reflect this ongoing preservation effort, alongside martial arts organizations claiming historical lineages. The Bansen Shukai, Shoninki, and Ninpiden manuals remain accessible for study. These primary sources reveal a shift in perception accompanying the decline of shinobi as an active profession. Compiled 60 years after the end of Sengoku period operations, the Bansen Shukai's author explicitly documented community knowledge, fearing its loss due to receding historical context. The term ninja, a compound word, gained widespread use only in the 20th century. Historical actors identified themselves as shinobi. This distinction reflects an evolving cultural understanding and underscores that contemporary usage diverges from historical reality. Shinobi arts, a Japan-based media platform, aims to bridge this gap by connecting global audiences with authentic Shinobi culture through research grounded in primary sources and collaboration with the Igaryu Ninja Museum. The organization emphasizes seishin, or righteous heart, as central to the tradition, prioritizing moral character above technical skill, according to the Bansen Shukai's opening statement. This principle guides their content creation, distinguishing between historical reality and fictional portrayals. Their work draws upon original ninja manuals alongside domain records and contemporary scholarship in Japanese history. The word ninja, so familiar today, wasn't a term used by those who practiced the skills we now associate with it. They called themselves shinobi. This distinction is important because it highlights how our understanding of these actors has evolved over time, diverging from historical reality to embrace myth and legend. While popular culture often depicts ninja as shadowy assassins, historical accounts paint a more nuanced picture, that of spies, scouts, agitators, and mercenaries operating within the complex political landscape of feudal Japan. The earliest references to shinobi appear in texts dating back to the 8th century, but it was during the Sengoku period, a time of intense conflict, that their role became increasingly formalized. Jizamurai, peasant warriors from Iga province and the adjacent Koka district, formed leagues for self-defense, offering their services as spies and mercenaries. Later, during the Tokugawa shogunate, ninja faded into obscurity, though not before contributing to events such as assistance given to Tokugawa Ieyasu's escape after the Battle of Okahazama. Accounts suggest Koga ninja infiltrated a castle and planted a flag, while others aided in reconnaissance missions by surveying fortifications and gathering intelligence on enemy provisions. One diary details how shinobi disguised themselves as defenders to capture an enemy banner. These actions underscore their role in espionage and covert operations during times of war. The final recorded use of ninja in warfare occurred during the Shimabara Rebellion, where Koga ninja were employed against Christian rebels. The Yukai diary recounts how ninja observed the defenders' morale and identified potential collaborators among the local populace, suggesting a broader role beyond direct combat or espionage. These accounts offer glimpses into their activities during the rebellion, but remain fragmented and often intertwined with folklore, making definitive conclusions challenging. This event marked a symbolic end to the era of ninja as active participants in warfare, though tales of their exploits continued to circulate, evolving into the romanticized figures seen in popular culture today. Despite the decline in their military function, the image of the shinobi, the shadowy figure operating beyond conventional boundaries, has persisted, captivating imaginations and shaping perceptions of Japanese history and martial arts. The enduring fascination with ninja speaks not only to their skill, but also to a broader cultural interest in secrecy, resilience, and challenging established authority, qualities that continue to resonate across generations.